Hello, hello. Uh, we'll be wrapping up our review and discussion about fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. Our exam is coming up April 23rd. It'll be open until the 25th. And just a reminder, keep the stress down, keep up with MindTap. Our PowerPoints are posted on Blackboard. So, in our review of these amazing nutrients contributing to good health, we are in the vitamins category and the fat-soluble vitamins. Those four remaining vitamins for us to finish up our review. Those four of the total 13 vitamins. Vitamins, we know them as essential nutrients, meaning we can't produce a sufficient amount that we need. We need them in our dietary intake. All vitamins are organic in nature, as opposed to inorganic. The inorganic nutrients we'll be discussing coming up next, and those will be the minerals and electrolytes and trace minerals on the left bottom corner of our list of nutrients. So let's take a look at this highlight in the back of chapter 11. Fat-soluble vitamins, very important role in antioxidant protectors of chronic disease. When we talk about antioxidants, we are talking about the battle against free radicals. So free radicals, those are those troublesome reactive species of chemicals that come from a variety of sources. It could be ionizing radiation. It could be our own metabolism, because we're not perfectly efficient. We do give off some extra energy, and that's what makes these molecules packed with energy, with nowhere else to go but trying to react with tissue, and that's why they're troublesome. There could be other radical generators, for example, xenobiotics, certain things that we might take in foreign to our body. The free radicals contain one or more unpaired. What would that be? A free radical is defined chemically. And it's defined chemically, if you think of the basic thing that you learned in chemistry. A lot of chemistry is based on electrons. And that's what makes these free radicals reactive. There's an unpaired electron. You remember from chemistry, electrons don't like to be unpaired. They do whatever possible to find a partner and to be paired. Every element in the periodic table does what it can to get paired electrons. In fact, you might remember the octet rule, and that's where outermost electrons want to be paired up so they are like noble gases, and that happens to be an octet, or 8 valence electrons. Good to recall your chemistry. The body does or does not produce free radicals. Well, yes, indeed, it does produce free radicals. And that's what we need these antioxidants for. We need them around always because in our normal metabolism, we do produce a certain amount of free radicals. in some cases, free radicals are needed. Sometimes our body produces free radicals to combat something or another. For example, to battle certain intruders into the body, or in some cases, cancers. Let's see this third one here, blank neutralize free radicals. This prevents blank. Okay, so the main thing here, and this is what some of the role of fat-soluble vitamins are, and it's shown right here in this little figure, and those are antioxidants, because the free radicals, what they want to do is oxidize. They want to grab electrons to pair up, and that's oxidation. Oxidation is producing other species by grabbing an electron and leaving them as reactive or disabled in their function. And so antioxidants neutralize these free radicals, and they prevent oxidative stress. Okay, so some very important vocabulary we see in this slide. So what about free radical damage? As I mentioned, sometimes it's helpful. The body uses it in certain instances as ammunition against certain diseases or intruders. But most of the time, it could cause damage. And what kind of damage? Well, mainly at the cellular level. It could cause progression of disease and aging. And some specifics, it could serve to oxidize polyunsaturated fatty acids, PUFAs, sometimes they're known, in lipoproteins in membranes, so disrupting the normal structure by reacting with unsaturations. It's those double bonds. They can alter genetic material, DNA, RNA, and other proteins, and they could elicit inflammatory response. It's a figure from our textbook, various possibilities of free radicals doing damage to polyunsaturated fatty acids. Those, for the most part, we like to take these in our diet. Very important for cell membranes, and they could produce more radicals from the lipids, from these fatty acids, leading to cell damage, DNA damage. You can see the sequence, proteins, altered proteins that'll change or disrupt their normal function, and in the end, all leading to cell damage, diseases, and aging. So important stuff we're talking about here. Oxidative damage are causative to, or attributed to, or associated to many degenerative conditions, including reduced cognitive performance, cancer, heart disease, arthritis, cataracts, diabetes. The body has natural defenses to repair oxidative damage, but it's not 100%. And having our sufficient amount of these antioxidants in our body is critical. So, what are the components in a healthy diet that assist us in fighting free radicals? Well, we need some um, key minerals that we'll talk about in the days to come, and those would be, in particular, copper, selenium, manganese, and zinc. They work with enzyme systems, and of course, are fat-soluble vitamins. Fat-soluble vitamins E, defending against that oxidative damage to lipids. Beta-carotene, vitamin A, also defending against lipid membrane damage. And then our water-soluble vitamin C. You'll remember that it also has a role as an antioxidant. One of the things, chronic disease is attributed to excessive oxidative damage is cancer, as cells get damage or DNA damage could lead to progression of certain types of cancers. Oh, a healthy diet includes these precursors for our antioxidants. And we also could have, in some cases, supplements might be helpful. In particular, vitamin E is a popular supplement, but has to be careful. Vitamin E, we know there is an upper limit that it could be dangerous, taking above that upper limit. So part of this, what could be oxidized, is invulnerable to accelerating certain damage in artery, and that's oxidative damage to lipoprotein, right? Lipoprotein, low density lipoprotein in particular. Remember, that's the transport for cholesterol and triglycerides. Well, that's vulnerable to oxidative damage, which could accelerate formation of plaques in arteries. Let's see, vitamin E, protective against that sort of damage. Vitamin C also. So these two vitamins in particular against this scenario of low density lipoprotein oxidation. Supplements. So in general, it's been documented that taking in vitamins, minerals, in general nutrients, it's best to get it in a varied diet, natural diet, in food. But supplements may be of help in certain instances. But in general, selecting the diet that's rich in the variety of nutrients is our best strategy. And when we talk about the fat-soluble vitamins, we're talking about those also rich in healthy fats. So fat-soluble vitamins, they're by nature, they're soluble in fat. So they will be carried in foods that have a certain amount of fat. Measuring fat-soluble vitamins and their equivalents. So some of these units are a bit different. So this is just taking a look at the units. For vitamin A, there is a couple of ways this is communicated. And one of them is in retinal activity equivalents, also international units, and also in the mass quantity of micrograms. The micrograms relatively extremely small when compared to when we talk about macronutrients, that's in grams. We talked about some vitamins that are relatively high in terms of vitamin amounts, and that would be in milligrams. These we're talking about in micrograms. That's 1,000-fold lower than the milligrams. Vitamin D, also in international units of vitamin D3 equivalents. Vitamin E, this one is a fairly high requirement, and it's in milligram quantities. We know that's, and also we talk about it in alpha tocopherol units. So alpha tocopherol, that's the active form of vitamin E. And vitamin K, also in micrograms, and also expressed as adequate intake. It's around 70 micrograms. So fairly small amount, but absolutely very important. The other thing we talk about for all nutrients, but especially for vitamins, is they have this extra component of possibility of damaging or losing these from the food. So we look at situations here on the left. We have certain ways of preparing food, an amount of food eaten, nutritional status of an individual, and just general composition of a meal. And we talk about this bioavailability. So this word bioavailability, extremely important. And that's not just what's available in the food, but it takes into account preparation of that food, digestion of the food, and absorption of the particular nutrients. So a whole sequence of events there to go from food to being active and available in our bodies. So how do we decrease or lose bioavailability? It's a number of ways. We can a certain amount of microwave damages some of our nutrients. Processing food, we've seen you process something like whole wheat. You make white flour. A lot of nutrients have been lost in that processing. An individual with certain medical conditions, failure to absorb, there's many instances that there could be that there's failure to absorb certain nutrients. We could think about damage to the GI tract, damage to oral cavity, etc. Amount of food, quantity of food eaten. So the quality of food and quantity of food, depending on which way it is, it could decrease bioavailability or it could improve bioavailability by these two things. Nutritional status of individuals, okay, that's similar to medical condition of an individual. If a certain person is in general much better health, then systems and things are working better, and absorption and digestion will be operating as normal, and bioavailability will be increased. On the other hand, if there's poor nutritional status, poor health, then bioavailability will be lower. Composition of food, composition of the meal. So in certain instances, if there's for example, a very high fatty meal, this might slow down or decrease absorption of certain nutrients. That's because of the massive, say, of lipid and poor digestion of that, and it goes through the system without being fully digested or absorbed. Well, there'll be nutrients that are lost in that process. So on the other hand, if these are positive, if a moderate amount of food is eaten, quality of food is high, high nutritional status of an individual, these all increase or enhance bioavailability. That's important considerations. So let's go through a case study and bring up some important points that we've learned about the D vitamins. So this is a case study in low serum vitamin D. So Joan is a 90-year-old Caucasian woman who has recently been diagnosed with osteoporosis after a recent fall that broke her hip. She is 64 inches tall, 110 pounds. Lately, she's been complaining about muscle pain in her legs. She eats a limited diet due to chronic low appetite. A recent blood test showed Joan's serum vitamin D is below normal. Her daily diet includes juice off fruit and toast with butter for breakfast, cottage cheese and fruit for lunch, and salad or frozen vegetable with meat or poultry for dinner. She dislikes fish except for canned tuna, and she often drinks a glass of fortified milk before going to bed at night. Although she lives in New Mexico, she spends most of her days indoors. Joan has been taking blood thinning medication since she was discharged from hospital. She takes a daily multivitamin that contains 400 international units of vitamin D and 15 milligrams of vitamin E. So that's the scenario. And now let's go through a set of questions relevant to our learning about the D vitamins. Okay, so what is dehydrocholesterol? 7-dehydrocholesterol, a hydroxylated product of vitamin D metabolism, final product of degradation of vitamin D. Form of vitamin D often found in foods, a vitamin D precursor manufactured in the liver, the active form of vitamin D in the kidneys. Now, if we look at the description of the what's being asked here, we know it's a chemical, and we could see right in there, this jumps right out, that it's a form of cholesterol. So that should give us an idea. Oh, it's got to be a precursor, because we know that certain steroids, and in particular cholesterol, is a precursor to vitamin D, right? Not the type found in foods. So that eliminates a few of the choices there. And so which one could it be that would be, meaning it's an endogenous chemical that is in the body and being a precursor for the active form of vitamin D. And there is one that that is the best answer, a vitamin D precursor It is a vitamin D precursor, and vitamin D precursor, and it is formed in the liver. We know the liver is a depository for lipid lipid molecules in the body. So it is formed in the liver, and it is transported to the skin. As you can see in this little figure on the bottom right, you can see that that's going to be in the skin, ready to be transformed toward precursors of vitamin D. So that is formed in the liver and is in the skin, ready to be activated and go through the processes to make active vitamin D. All right, where does the final hydroxylation necessary for activation of vitamin D occur? We know that vitamin D we synthesize it, but with the help of the sun. That's at least a portion of our vitamin D, probably the majority of vitamin D for most people. And where does that final hydroxylation take place? Well, there's two other organs involved there. So we have the skin, the first organ for at least the produced by the sun. And then we have liver, and then we have kidney. So the kidney is the final place of that last hydroxylation, making the active form for us calcitron of vitamin D. Okay, of the food Joan eats, which is the best source of vitamin D? Well, the best source turns out to be that milk that she says she has before going to bed. Fortified milk. Fortified, remember that word fortified. Vitamin D is not originally in milk. It's fortified. That means it's added to increase the density, the nutrient density of that food item. If vitamin D were present and we're just kind of bumping up the concentration, that would be enriching the milk. But this is fortifying it with vitamin D. Joan wants to increase our intake of vitamin A. Which of the foods would be best? Vitamin A. So vitamin A, we should immediately think of carotenoids, right? Carotenoids, beta carotenoid. Beta carotene in the carotenoid family. Carotenoids family are yellow, orange in color. So it's one of the places we should be thinking about in our diet. And that would be sweet potatoes, a good source of vitamin A. And you can see that also in our little table here taken from the book. Because Joan is concerned about skin cancer, she uses sunscreen when she is outside. At what SPF level of sunscreen that will start to interfere with vitamin D synthesis? So we mentioned this in lecture, and most of us bummed out about this. We want to protect ourselves from too much UV. We know that is a potential for harm, sunburn, or even worse. And so we want to, if we're out in the sun a prolonged period of time, we definitely should have some sunscreen on. Maybe avoid certain times of the day being out in the sun. We're all probably looking forward to spending some time in the sun. And it turns out to be 8. SPF 8. After that, we start to lose some of the vitamin D synthesis potential from the sun. So you might want to think about that. What's the SPF do you use? I don't know if it's a linear relationship as you go up to the maximum SPF. Does it linearly subtract from our potential vitamin D? Might be something to look into. Vitamin D is, Joan is taking a vitamin E supplement that provides 15 milligrams. We heard that in the last part of the description there of this scenario. What is the upper limit for vitamin E in milligrams per day? So this was just part of this scenario. I'm not going to hold us all to remembering numbers. That's easy enough to look up. But it's fairly high. She's taking a 15 milligram. Its upper limit is up at 1,000. So it's good to be concerned to have that vitamin E potential as an antioxidant. And maybe in particular as we get older. Joan is 90 years old, so concern is oxidative stress. So it could be more than 15 milligrams without coming close to the upper limit per day. Since she's on a blood thinner, Joan has been warned about her intake of foods rich in vitamin K. Which of the following food groups is rich in vitamin K? The vitamin K, we should immediately think of clotting, blood clotting. All right, that's the vitamin necessary in the sequence of producing that final fibrin, which is part of blood clotting. Vitamin K, essential part of that sequence. Which of the following foods is rich in vitamin K? Of this list here, it turned out to be that dark leafy green vegetables is the best source in food. Most nutrient dense for the source of vitamin K and many other vitamins. Very low calorie, but packed with many of the vitamins we've been talking about. A deficiency. These are just some general review questions. A deficiency of which vitamin can cause excessive bleeding? Just talked about that. As you're looking down, these are the fat-soluble vitamins, A, E, D, K, and each of those should bring to mind some major role of what they play in our diet. And for the bleeding, that's the vitamin K. Symptom of vitamin A toxicity include dizziness and blurred vision. Is that true or false? Yes, one of the things we should think about vitamin A is to do with vision. It's got a very important role in vision. What's a good source of vitamin D? Of these listed here, fortified milk. The other source, of course, is production in the liver of 7-dehydrocholesterol and sunlight. The active form of vitamin K is alpha tocopherol. That's false. What is alpha tocopherol? That's the active form of vitamin E. Which situation will make an individual at risk of vitamin K? Select all. For vitamin K, we should also be thinking about where a good part of our vitamin K is produced, and that's in the intestines, intestinal microflora. And so what could affect the microflora? That could be antibiotics. It could be bouts of diarrhea. And it also could be receiving anticoagulative therapy. You just think about that. Okay, so that was a quick review of what we've been learning about the fat-soluble vitamins. So I'm going to post a couple of crossword puzzles if you enjoy doing them, and it will push you to look up certain facts that you might not have at the top of your mind. And these are the these are clues, and you'll get this. I'm going to post this in Blackboard, and you'll have these if you'd like to do this, and if you complete them by what's today? By tomorrow, by Friday, and I'll post this information in an announcement where this is. Then you will receive. There'll be two. One is water soluble, one is fat soluble, with some interesting clues. So for some, it's fun doing crossword puzzles, and it's a study aid. Okay, so that's for those that enjoy these and have the time. There will be extra credit on the quiz. You will get an extra 3 points on the quiz. So you do well on the quiz, get extra 3 points, and have fun doing that, then it's worthwhile. So information will be posted in an announcement today about that. Now, so as we do on Thursdays, we do have a quiz, and the quiz will be open as shown in this right here. This right here. The normal quiz location, socrative.com. It will be open at the usual time when we do this, usually on Thursdays, from 7 o'clock and open till 6:30. And that's today, April 8th. So anytime between this half hour, log in. It's a 12-question multiple choice quiz for you to complete. And do well on that. Enjoy that. It pushes you to keep up with the material and highlights some important learning that we should be doing. Okay, so enjoy that, and keep up with MindTap. We're off from vitamins. We're going to jump to minerals, another important nutrient. And we'll see you next week. Have a great time, and until that time, we'll see you on Tuesday.